When you think of Five Nights at Freddy's and its subsequent games, I think it's pretty agreeable to say that the games aren't exactly the most technologically advanced thing in the entire world. Even the engine it was made in, Click Team Fusion, is pretty simple. In fact, one of the main selling points of the engine is that it's a good way for developers to get into game development, with the ability to create games relatively easily. So you can see why Scott Cawthon used it as a solo game developer, as well as the countless amount of developers who would make fan games based off FNAF. However, as time went on, the ideas that fans want to execute would become too complicated for the Click Team engine, or just straight up impossible. Which is why they would utilize different engines for the job. Godot, Unity, GameMaker, Unreal are just to name a few. Now out of those 4 engines, when you look at this footage, what engine do you think this game was created in? Well, if you answered any of those, you're wrong, because I actually didn't zoom out completely. Now if you look in the top left corner, just barely can you see a logo. The fucking Roblox logo. Now when you think of Roblox, you probably think of something like this. Fuck! Or this. Or probably most likely this. Not a game where you actually have fingers and realistic hands instead of a huge block for an arm. No, I am not lying to you when I say that this FNAF 2 fan game was made entirely in Roblox, which definitely caught me off guard, and it seems like it did so for a lot of other people as well. Because when it comes to real-time 3D fan games such as this, they're usually made in an industry standard engine such as the previously mentioned Unreal, which is the same engine that Nixon is using to develop The Joy of Creation, which is one of the most popular FNAF fan games of all time, and arguably the most popular 3D FNAF fan game ever. So when people discovered this footage was a Roblox game and not Unreal Engine, it put it on everybody's radar and thousands of people went to try it out. Now you probably don't know this about me, but I'm actually quite an avid Roblox player. I make avatars, play games, and just do what normal people do. So when I found out this was created in Roblox, you already know I had to go and check it out, but it seemed a bit boring to do so alone, which is why I got a few of my friends to hop in a Discord call at midnight and you, the viewer, to take along with me. With all that yapping out of the way, today we're going to cover FNAF 2 Reimagined, created by Kango Development on Roblox, and if it's worth playing and why, which, spoiler alert, it is. And speaking of spoilers, this video will contain a bunch of them as I will be covering the entirety of the game, so you have been warned. Starting with the most boring thing, the menu, there's actually a decent amount of stuff to go through before starting an actual game. First, we have some options that you can select on or off for your choosing, some extras that features credits, jump scares, and statistics, which count your playtime, nights completed, and weirdly enough, how much time you spent in the mask. Oh yeah, another spoiler alert, there's a mask, but you probably already expected that knowing this is a FNAF 2 fan game. After that, we have a little shop, where if you have some spare Robux, you can buy plushies for 25 Robux each. I bought the Foxy one, and all they do is just sit on your desk, which I think is a nice way to support the developer while also getting a little something in return. There are also some cheats you can buy which happen to be a little bit more expensive. Faster Nights for 225 Robux, a golden flashlight for 95, and an animatronic map for 175. If you enable Faster Nights or the animatronic map, they'll prevent you from earning a badge for completing the night, although with the golden flashlight, you can still earn badges as it does nothing except just make your flashlight golden. Anyways, let's actually get into the game. You can choose to start a new game, continue where you left off, or even do custom night, which is unlocked before you complete the entire game for some reason. I would have preferred they made it so that you unlock the custom night after you finish the game as another sort of reward, but it's whatever. Whenever you start a night, it'll take a bit of time for things to load in. However, when everything is loaded, you can start the game by clicking on the keys. This is something that is so small yet a detail I absolutely love. It really just does add to the immersion of the game, especially with the fact that Michael's name is on the keys, which tells you, the player, are in fact playing as Michael Afton. Big shocker, am I right? Anyways, night 1 is like every other night for a FNAF game. It just serves as a tutorial. However, there's actually quite a bit of action that happens on this night, and it isn't like FNAF 3's night 1, which is essentially just a sitting simulator. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's talk about the mechanics. There are 4 things a player can do while in their office. Pressing the space bar opens and closes your cameras, W equips the mask, S opens a fuse box, which you'll talk about later, and right mouse button takes out your flashlight. Now this game being in real-time 3D has a lot of benefits. For one, the flashlight interacts with anywhere you point around the office, instead of having preset lighting like the original game, which means you can actually miss animatronics if you don't hover over a certain area, and this is also used as a mechanic for dealing with certain animatronics later in the game. The game can also have actual animations that aren't just simple pre-rendered jump scares. The animatronics actually move around from room to room, and there are a lot of small details such as the slight twitches which are just really cool to see. Anyway, enough with that side tangent. Back to the other mechanics. When your monitor is open, you can see various cameras that are numbered, and you're going to want to memorize these cameras. In the bottom right corner of the camera next to the cam buttons themselves is a sort of flash, which needs to be recharged after being used. This sort of lights up the rooms, but not by a whole lot. It'll come to use later. Speaking of the cameras, however, some can actually be shut down, which is what the fuse box is used for. Opening the fuse box shows you a bunch of switches that each correspond to a certain camera. Flick the switch, and that camera will be working again. As simple as that. Although you really got to make sure you're safe before you do this. And trust me, this will be very important. One thing you've probably noticed now is the fact that there's no puppet or music box, which quite honestly I think is the best change to the game. In the original FNAF 2, the music box was a mechanic that I think held back the game a lot, because as you progress through the later nights, the monitor would be used less for the actual camera and more so just for the music box button. After all, you need to constantly wind up the music box, which gave you no time to check the other cams for the animatronics. And this game solves that issue by just removing the feature completely and actually making the other cams become super essential to your survival. But we'll get back to that later. The mask is just, well, the mask, but even that was changed up a little bit, which I'll talk about when it comes to it. Night 1 is pretty much a breeze, although it does introduce two threats, Toy Chica and Toy Bonnie. Toy Chica comes from the left vent and Toy Bonnie will come from the right side, just like the original. However, instead of flashing your light at them before they come into view and putting on your mask, you'll actually hear loud crawling getting closer and closer, and you need to put on the mask before they get to the entrance of the vent, otherwise you'll die. Oh my god! Holy fuck. You can also take off your mask the second they turn their back on you. The animations for both animatronics when they enter your office, inspect you, and leave are fucking amazing and genuinely made me terrified when I first saw them. The robotic movements are perfect and still smooth. Like seriously, as we move on, you're gonna continue to hear me gush about how good the animations are. Anyways, you can tell what time it is via the clock on your desk. However, a very inconveniently placed mug is covering the minute number, so you can only tell the hour, and a small beep will be heard every time an hour passes, which I think is pretty nice and helps with being able to know when you've progressed. When completing a night, a shot of the clock hitting 6 will play along with bell chimes. However, sadly, there aren't any kids cheering you on for living another day. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. Now this is my first actual criticism about the game. After completing a night, you are teleported back to the menu and need to press continue to move on. You need to do this every single night, and even when you die, you're automatically just teleported back and need to do the same thing over and over. This got really frustrating in the later nights when I would start to die constantly, so I was getting teleported back to the menu and needed to press continue again. To fix this problem, I think if there was some kind of system where after completing a night, instead of just getting teleported back to the menu, there were two buttons where you could choose what to do, continue on to the next day or go back to the menu. This way, it's still possible to go back to the menu if you want to, but also continue. And this could also be used for deaths, except with a respawn button instead. But keep in mind, this is still Roblox, which I honestly kind of forgot for a second myself, like holy shit. And there are probably some limitations to the engine, and this could be done for purposes such as preventing lag or glitches. Because if you don't know, Roblox's optimization is hot ass. Did I mention there's a phone guy? Yeah, the only reason I didn't mention him is because he doesn't really say anything special on the first night besides what the different mechanics do. However, on night 2, he does warn us about a new threat and goes a little bit deeper into the game's lore. Ryan, the name of the phone guy, throws a bit of shade towards Fazbear Entertainment as he's allowed to say anything he wants now since William Afton isn't monitoring the calls anymore. He even mentioned that he's technically not even supposed to call, but wants to give us more information. This is the night that Withered Foxy comes into play. He's located on Camp 8 in the parts and service room, along with all the other Withers. You deal with him by hearing a sound cue that signals when he leaves the room, and he'll be in one of 5 spots. Those spots being the middle hallway or either of the 4 party rooms. If he's in the middle hallway, just shine your flashlight at him for a brief second, and if he's in any of the 4 party rooms, just use your flash beacon. After that, he'll be back in Camp 8. I love this overhaul of Foxy's mechanic as it actually makes him harder to deal with, but in a way that's really fun to do so. Compared to the original game, it's super boring that all you have to do to deal with Foxy is simply just spam click the hallway. It's just a single boring solution that doesn't make you feel like you're actually on a time crunch. However, in Reimagined, the fact that there are 2 different ways to deal with Foxy and multiple spots he can show up in really increases the difficulty of handling Foxy, but also feels super rewarding when doing so. This is also where the fuse box comes into play. Because some of the cameras will occasionally shut off, that means one of the party room cameras can become disabled, and if Foxy happens to be in the one that's disabled, you can't use your flash beacon and will die if you don't restart it fast enough. This also adds another layer to Foxy's mechanics and is super fun to deal with. Like when you realize that Foxy is in one one of the party rooms that has its camera shut off, pulling off a reset while also dealing with the other animatronics and then successfully flashing Foxy is super satisfying to do and also serves as a really good difficulty curve, which this game balances its difficulty very well. A strategy I used for this night is that I just had my camera open to parts and service and waited to see if Foxy was gone. Then upon noticing he was missing from his position, I checked all 4 of the party rooms and the hallway, dealing with him soon after. However, if you thought about relying on this method for the entire game, you're going to have your entire world crumble down on night 3. You really should be memorizing what Foxy's sound cue sounds like, instead of using the method I did. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting your first death like how I did. Oh my god! Holy shit! Oh my god!
Dude, the Foxy animation is
That is crazy.
It's so good.
This is going to be the only time I mention this, but holy shit, the death jump scare animations are fucking amazing. When I saw this for the first time, I was a bit shaken up from the jump scare, but literally right after, I could not stop gushing about how cool the animation was. All the death animations are unique, don't recycle or repeat from one another, and in every single death animation, it actually has Michael trying to fight back from his inevitable demise. It's just such a cool detail, and I really wish more fan games would do that for their jump scares, instead of just having the dude sit there when these big ass murder robots are attacking them. I'm not going to talk about any of the other death animations, because quite frankly I've spent way longer than I should have on them, but also because Withered Foxy's is just by far the coolest one. Like, he literally sticks his hook through your hand. Is that not the fucking rawest shit ever? I didn't think I'd ever be so excited to die in a FNAF fan game. Anyway, moving on, Night 3 drops the most information about this game's lore so far, but also reveals 2 new animatronics that come into play and how to deal with them. First, for the 2 animatronics, we have Mangle and Withered Freddy coming into play. They're both pretty easy to explain, so I'll touch on them briefly. Mangle starts in the prize corner and will slowly crawl their way to your office. They come through the middle hallway and into your office, which once inside, all you have to do to get them out of your office is to put on the mask. I haven't touched on this until now, but man, being able to see all of these animatronics in the same hallway at once is super cool. In the original, there's only so many combinations you can have, which starts to mess with things. However, in Reimagined, it seems like there's no limit to how many animatronics can show up in the hallway, which is super neat and adds to the immersion. Although in some of the cameras, the animatronics can end up clipping into one another, which looks a bit wonky. Withered Freddy will first appear in Cam 10, and he'll slowly make his way through Cam 12 and then to Cam 07. To prevent him from making his way to your office, you have to use the flash beacon, which will send him back a step. For example, if he's on Cam 7 and you flash him, he won't immediately go back to Cam 10. He'll actually go back to Cam 12, and you'll need to flash him again for him to go back to Cam 10. After Cam 10, there's no point in flashing him since he won't move after that. Withered Freddy's mechanic is honestly pretty unique. I can't recall any fan game having a similar mechanic to that off the top of my head. Since the beacon needs to recharge a bit, it also adds a bit more challenge to dealing with Foxy as well, since you need to decide very quickly who to deal with first, on top of also having more cameras you need to watch out for in case they become disabled. As for the lore dump for this night, you know how I said you shouldn't rely on the parts and service camera to see if Foxy has moved or not? Well, that's because it has become fully disabled, and you can't see anything through it for the rest of the entire game. Ryan tells us that there are complaints from a janitor about the terrible smell from the room and it has now become locked up. He suspects it could be a dead rat and wanted to ask William about it, but couldn't find him. Something tells me it isn't a dead rat though. He also reveals that Henry Emily's daughter has gone missing with no leads, explaining his absence at the pizzeria, which will actually become important later on, but that concludes Night 3. Night 4 really amps up the difficulty, but in a way that's super fun to play. Even though I died a ton of times this night, I actually didn't mind it a whole lot because it was actually just that fun to do. Although it did get a bit frustrating at times because I felt like I just got bad luck instead of my skill being at fault, but I got through it, so hey, whatever. But one thing that contributed to making this night a lot harder is the last 2 animatronics introduced into the game. Withered Bonnie and Chica both work in the same way, similar to Toy Bonnie and Chica. They'll make their way from parts and service down the hall where you can see them and in their respective party rooms, to which they'll come out of the vents. But this time, Withered Bonnie comes from the left and Withered Chica from the right. That detail isn't important at all, but I just thought it was interesting how they switch spots compared to the toy animatronics. Anyways, how do you deal with them once they've come through the vent? Well, for starters, you can tell it's the Withered animatronics crawling through the vent instead of the toy ones because they make a super weird glitchy noise, which is important because your mask doesn't fool them. If you put the mask on, you'll just get yourself killed. Instead, you have to point the flashlight in their face, to which they'll start moving around. Continue moving your flashlight to their face, and eventually they'll go away. This is by far my favorite mechanic in the game because it uses the real-time 3D of the Roblox engine to its full potential. Like, this is something that, yeah, can be done in Click Team, but it would not even be close to looking as good as it does here, or creepy for that matter, because man, this still freaks me the fuck out, especially with how abnormally fast they both both move and their slight twitchy movements. As I said before, these are the two final animatronics introduced into the game, and honestly I like how they just removed the other animatronics from the original that had mechanics that frankly were just kinda stupid. I'm talking about you, Puppet and Balloon Boy! And with the animatronics that are in the game, it's really nice how very few of them are dealt with in the same way. That's one problem I always had with the original FNAF 2. There were so many animatronics, but they all essentially did the same thing and you dealt with them in the same way, which Reimagined tackles that problem head on and fucking kills it, creating a gameplay loop that is just so fun and satisfying to master. It does take some time to get down, however. Like, expect to be having quite a handful of 10s for this night, but once you complete it, it is super rewarding. But I probably should talk about the phone call for this night before I move on. According to Ryan, the stench has just gotten even worse than yesterday, but he was able to finally see William after closing hours. He tries to ask William about what's in the parts and service room, but is immediately shut down by William as he locks himself inside the room. What's even weirder is that William also locks the room after he leaves, which means that the Withers can't get out, but they somehow find a way. Ryan asks us to investigate the room, but immediately takes it back and just says he's gonna try to do it himself when the door is unlocked to find out what's inside. It's implied through the call that he thinks there's most likely a corpse in there, probably not thinking that the fact that it's multiple corpses and that they all belong to kids. He also tells us goodnight and to stay safe. Like, wow Ryan, you're such a sweetheart. Mwah. To put it bluntly, night 5 is just night 4, but amped up a little bit in difficulty. However, it actually took me way less time to finish this night than the previous one, which I think had to do something with the fact that night 4 really got me in the rhythm of things, and let me set up my own strategy to complete the night, to which I was now incorporating that into night 5. Either way, this is an amazing end to the base game, an awesome test of skill of everything you've learned the past 4 nights. It all connects together beautifully into a very fun yet challenging gameplay loop, and makes you feel super accomplished once you've beaten the night. However, before I get into the end of the game, let's talk about the phone call first. Ryan was able to sneak a very brief view into the room. However, he didn't catch much since all the lights were broken. The smell was horrible according to him. As soon as he opened the door, William caught him and fired him on the spot. This is when Ryan now tasks Michael to check the parts and service room for him, saying he doesn't even care about his job and that this is bigger than that. If he thinks it's what he thinks it is, he wants to get the police involved. However, by the end of the night, that isn't an option. The fuck? I did it. Okay, wait.
Michael, William just pulled into the parking lot. You need to get out of there now. Don't even bother with the parts and service room anymore. Just get the hell out. He knows you're in the middle of your shift. There's no other reason he would be there than to... Just get out. I'm waiting outside in my car right now. It's hidden in the foliage. I called the police, but they won't be here for a while. This place is in the middle of nowhere. Wait. He's messing with something on the side of the building. Hold on.
Oh my god. Do I have to... Is this free roam now? Do I have to run or is this a cutscene?
I think a cutscene.
You do not want to hide in there, dude.
You just go to parts.
Why would you hide in there? Oh. Oh my god. We get an interactive cutscene with Golden Freddy, who we can ask a few questions of our choice. I won't get into every single response, but to get the gist of it, the spirit that possesses Golden Freddy was named Charlotte, and the reason that the animatronics are attacking Michael is because they think he's the person who killed them. Charlotte doesn't attack Michael because she knows that that won't give her closure, and she also reveals that she is the daughter of Henry Emily, the same daughter who went missing. Michael asks Charlotte how he can help them move on, to which she responds that the pizzeria needs to be burned down. Michael is a bit hesitant at first, but he agrees to do it. In the background, we can hear William assumably get killed by the animatronics as he hides away in the bathroom, and Charlotte lets us go. FNAF 2 Reimagined is such an amazing fan game, and I applaud everyone who contributed to its development. The animation, gameplay, changes from the original, voice acting, and so much more are executed to perfection. The fact that it's all free to play and made in Roblox is just fucking mind-boggling to me. The ending of the game was very cool and a unique spin on the FNAF lore, and I love how we were able to interact with Golden Freddy, who is known to be a very mysterious animatronic and get short and concise answers. Kango Development is pushing the limits of the Roblox engine, and I hope this game sets a precedent for using Roblox as an engine to create amazing FNAF fan games. I would love to see and support more projects like this. It is truly an honor to be able to experience this level of talent, and I am super excited to see what the dev has in store for us in the future. Speaking of, according to the description, this is actually going to be the dev's last major project on Roblox, as they are moving to Unreal Engine. I have no idea if they're still set on moving to Unreal with the success of Reimagined, but if they are, I'm still really excited for anything they put out. FNAF related or not, they have some serious potential to create some terrifying shit, and I would love to see a recreation of Reimagined in Unreal. Mostly just because that hook hand stab needs to be given justice. Like, come on, there's no blood on that shit, man. Seriously though, please play this game, as I'll leave a link to it in the description below, and support the developer in any way possible, such as buying plushes in game or just dropping a little donation. We need more stuff like this, and being able to support the ones behind it increases our chances of getting more projects such as these. I hope you enjoyed this video and this overview of FNAF 2 Reimagined. I had a ton of fun playing, recording, and writing the script for this video, so it means a lot that you guys stuck till the end and gave me a chance. This isn't my typical kind of video, but if you guys like it so much, I'll do more like it in the future. Just a little update on the channel. I want to thank everyone so much for 10,000 subscribers. It means the world to me that many people actually want to frequently watch the stuff I put out. I will have a dedicated 10k subscriber special and channel announcement coming out in the future, however, so don't worry. Just know that I am cooking up some good shit for all of you to enjoy. I also want to thank everyone for the support I got on the last video. I did not expect it to do so well and blow up so fast like that. It's actually like the fastest I've gotten 100,000 views so far, which I just can't comprehend, and I just can't wrap my head around that. It's just giving me a ton of motivation to continue grinding. But enough with all that mushy talk. If you liked this video, give it a like, subscribe if you loved it, as I have more interesting videos coming out in the future, and just tell me what you liked, disliked, or what other topics you want me to cover in the comments below. But hey, I think my time is finally up. I'm gonna go play some Phantom Forces. I'll be on my way now. Stay safe and see ya. I better not see any fucking comments about Toy Chica.